Good afternoon and welcome to today's session on 6 simple strategies for MSMEs. I am Prasanna, co-host of the event today. Before we start today's agenda, let me introduce all of you to HOHO trainings, that is Hop On Hop Off training by United SMEs, sponsored by Cinesoft, especially for SME fraternity. Tomorrow we have a training on social media marketing at 3 p.m. To attend this session, you can register yourself from the website www.unitedsmes.in. Let me start with today's agenda. It's a very unique webinar concept specially designed for MSME owners and IT professionals. Today's session is focused on ITM, that is internal threat mitigation, versus UTM, that is unified threat management, and giving practical ITM solutions. Let me introduce today's presenter, Mr. Vishal Shah, CEO and co-founder of Cinesoft Technologies. He has over 18 years of expertise in IT industry, is known as seasoned technology stalwart, an inventor of specific patented technologies, a writer, a serial entrepreneur, an investor, and most importantly, a go-to guy for all the MSMEs. In this session, you will have insights on MSME specific perspective, explanation and strategy for ITM, 6 simple strategies to ensure ITM. If you have questions while you watch this demonstration, kindly write in question and answer tab in the bottom of your Zoom login. The panel will take up the questions at the end of the session. Alternatively, in case you want to ask any question in the end of the session, you may raise your hand and we will activate your microphone to ask the question. And this is a request, please fill the survey form which you will get when the session ends. Vishal sir, can you please take it ahead from here?
Yeah, thank you, Prasanna, for a generous introduction, and good afternoon to all of you. I see a good number of attendees and few of them are repeat attendees also. So as Prasanna mentioned, we are going to organize this particular session, and this particular session is actually unique in a way. So today we are not going to have any demonstrations. We are not going to use any technical jargons, So if you have seen our invitation, it is very well and clearly mentioned that it is a no jargon promise webinar. So today I am not going to use any jargons. I'm going to explain everything in layman terms. At least I'm going to try to do that. Also, coming to the agenda of today's webinar, we have found this topic very interesting because most of the times SME owners, they are the expert of their field. Of course, they are engineers, they are technical people, they are postgraduates, but they are not so conversant with information technology. And many a times they come across certain words, especially cybersecurity related words, and they find it difficult to understand. And sometimes when we are not able to understand something, it worries more than what we understand. So we thought that it is important and essential to organize such a webinar where we will not use any jargons. We will explain everything in a very, very layman term. So today's webinar is divided in 3 parts. The first of all, we will understand cybersecurity in a layman term. What do we mean by cybersecurity? And first of all, we will understand what is covered in cybersecurity. And when we talk about cybersecurity, what should we think about? And cybersecurity for a large enterprise and cybersecurity for a small enterprise is different. It is a different ball game, which I'm going to explain today. So when we think about cybersecurity with a large organization in mind, our thinking approach has to be different. And when we are talking about or thinking about cybersecurity for a small and medium enterprise in mind, it would be different. It would not be same as a large enterprise. It would not do justice to the protection from cyber frauds for an SME if we have the same approach. So I'm going to explain to what extent we should worry about it. I'm going to explain logically that why cybersecurity is important for MSMEs and what part of cybersecurity is important and to what an extent it is important. So that is the first part. In second part, we will explain certain examples of cyber frauds. We will explain certain instances which we should be conscious about, we should be aware about, and if we are aware about it and if we know what to do in such a situation, we are not the victim of cyber fraud. So that is what we are going to explain. We are also going to explain certain thumb rules also in that second part of our webinar. And the third part is what they call my signature concept, and that I call it as a VR safe strategy. VR safe strategy. So I will explain what is that VR safe strategy. That is called those 6 simple strategies to protect any small and medium enterprise, for, with a cyber security perspective. And rule 23. I'm going to explain rule 23, which will help most of the SME owners attending this particular webinar, or most of the IT professionals planning IT investment for SMEs. It will be very helpful for them in validating whether they are over investing or under investing, or whether they are overspending or underspending on IT expenses. So these are the 3 things which are covered in this particular webinar. And again, I repeat, it is going to be my promise that I'm not going to use jargons. At the end of the webinar, if you have any question, please raise your hand and we will talk about it, or you can put your question in question answer session also. So before we start this webinar, let me understand the composition of all the attendees. So let me know which type of roles, responsibilities you are taking care of in your organization, and that's how I would be, more aware about the composition of all the attendees, and I can, adapt my this webinar content, accordingly. So Prasanna, will you please launch the poll first and then we'll start the webinar. Yeah, so results are out. We are seeing that 55% of the attendees are representing a small and medium enterprise. 32% are representing IT system integrator or IT service provider to MSMEs or to large enterprises. And 14% are students, freelancers, or IT professionals. So the audience is highly relevant to the subject of this particular webinar. And what takeaway you can have from this particular webinar is, for the people who are representing SMEs can validate whether they overinvested, underinvested. IT system integrators can have a look at our approach, how cybersecurity for MSME is handled and how cybersecurity for a large enterprise is handled. And for students, freelancers, and IT professionals, definitely it is going to be a good knowledge sharing. So let us start with the next, the first part of this particular webinar. So I will just close this particular poll. So first of all, we'll understand why cybersecurity is so important suddenly, why the cyber security is so important for MSMEs. It is like one fine morning you wake up and and the world has changed, and this has happened with MSMEs in last a few years. So let us understand why it is so important. So you will agree with me that cyber security is related to IT infrastructure, IT systems, or overall IT adoption. Now, most of the small and medium enterprises we can think about are either service providers to a large enterprise, or suppliers to a large enterprise, or they are exporters. So when an SME is a service provider to large enterprise or a supplier to a large enterprise, all the systems, all the quality standards are also extended on the suppliers, on the vendors. Large enterprises have their own vendor development programs in which they want their vendors or suppliers or service providers to adopt certain standard practices. So those who are suppliers to large enterprise or service providers to large enterprise are competing on global standards, because they have to keep up their sophistication level of their IT infrastructure at a global standards. Similarly, when an SME is an exporter, it is even more serious, it is even more required that they have to compete on the global standards. So Indian SMEs are competing on global standards. So they are vulnerable to cyber frauds. They are vulnerable to cyber security because they are adopting information technology to be able to compete on global standards. For them, adoption of information technology is not a choice. For them, it is a compulsion. If they want to be globally competitive, they have to adopt information technology. If they don't adopt information technology, probably they are uncompetitive. And this mandatory adoption of information technology has made them dependent on digital assets. If we compare 20 years back, an SME, they would have large drawing boards on which people are drawing, on the board, and then there were ammonia prints, and they were rolling those ammonia prints in the containers, and they were giving. Now it is all Autodesk products or 3D products. That particular large drawing board is replaced by simple computer system, and that is how it has happened everywhere. Earlier we had papers, now it is all digitization. So we can talk, we can very easily understand that dependence on digital assets means most of the SMEs intellectual assets like designs, drawings, documents, spreadsheets, bids, proposals, accounting data, HR data, customer data, all this data is now transformed from physical documents or physical papers to digital. So they are unprecedentedly dependent on digital assets. And when they are dependent on digital assets, whatever can harm those digital assets can be a threat. And cybersecurity threat is all about that. Any cyber fraud or any cybersecurity breach will harm those digital assets. And that's the reason we need to understand that for SME, cybersecurity is very, very important, and it will make sure that whether they can continue the business or they cannot continue the business, it will decide whether they are competitive or not competitive. And that will depend on how they are handling cybersecurity. So coming to the next part of this particular presentation, we have understood that cybersecurity is now very important. Now we have to understand what aspects of cybersecurity are important for SMEs and to what extent they are important. So for that, we are presenting some analysis for all of you. This is very interesting analysis. It is slightly complex to understand, but I'm going to explain that. So whenever there is an organization which is planning its cyber security, for example, so we have taken 4 types of organizations in this particular screen. The one is this one, which is consumers, communities, social networks like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, such social networks, or maybe Aadhaar portal, or maybe our vaccination portal, or our Arogya Setu kind of networks. Another type of enterprises are very large enterprises or government organizations, like NSE, BSE listed companies or large PSUs. So a third type of enterprise we have visualized these old generation SMEs, old generation SMEs who have not adopted technology yet. And last is our type of enterprises. They are globally competing, and in order to be able to compete globally, they have to adopt information technology. So now for these four types of organizations, we have tried to understand what is the availability of talent to provide for cybersecurity. If I want to protect my organization for cybersecurity, I need talent and tools to protect my organization from cybersecurity. So when we talk about this kind of companies like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, or government organizations which are online available and they are accepting a lot of data online, they have talent availability and resource deployment for cyber security. It is always very high. They are very they are very large organizations. They have access to talent which can protect them on cyber security perspective. So they have a high talent availability in case they want to provide for cyber security. The same is the fact for large enterprise and government also. So when we talk about large enterprise, government, they have all resources, money to hire the best talent of cybersecurity, to buy the best cybersecurity tools. So they also have high on this particular matrix. On the high side, consumer, communities and social networks and large enterprises and government are there who have ample abundance of talent and resources to protect them from cyber frauds. Now, old generation SMEs, they do not have access to such talent and they do not have such resources. So they are low on availability of resources and talent, and the SMEs like us are also low on availability of talent and tools or resources to buy cybersecurity solutions. So when we are focusing here, our kind of organization does not have access to extraordinary talent, does not have access to unlimited resources to protect themselves with a cybersecurity perspective. Now coming to the horizontal axis, it is about risk and financial impact of cybercrime. In case any of these enterprises are victim of any cyber fraud or of any cyber crime, what would be the risk and financial impact on them? So when we talk about consumer, community, social networks, it would be low because it would be consumer who would be affected, and most of these large networks have very good cybersecurity provisions. So when there is an attack, it will have very little impact. They would immediately come to know about it, and they would immediately, take reactive actions, and they will make sure that risk and financial impact of cybercrime would be minimal. So for them, because they have high resource availability, their impact and risk of cyber fraud is low, which is here. Now it is different when we talk about large enterprise or government. Sometimes if government or large enterprise are victim of cyber fraud or cyber crime, the risk and financial impact would be very high. There would be a fraud, like we have seen 2 years ago. Yes Bank had that fraud, and that was worth 110 crore rupees. So all these things are very high. So these large government enterprises are lying in high availability of talent and resource, as well as high risk and impact of the cybercrime. When we talk about old generation MSME, though they do not have talent availability, they are also low on risk and financial impact, because they cannot be the victim of cyber fraud because they have everything on paper yet. They have not adopted information technology. But when we talk about our SME fraternity, that impact is definitely high. So here it is very important to understand that SMEs do not have access to abundance of talent and resources to protect themselves with a cybersecurity perspective. But if they are the victim, the impact, risk, and financial consequences would be very high. We read in newspaper that certain organization lost 1 crore rupees because of some bank account fraud or something like that. So we need to understand that for SME, they do not have access to talent, but they are vulnerable to very high risk and financial impact of cybercrime. Now we will go to next part. It is also another analysis. Now let's say this was from the organization's point of view. Okay. Now let us take the point of view of the hacker. Let's say if somebody is a hacker, he would, and let's say he's very smartest of smarts, he's very smart guy. Then what will be his decision making process to decide whom he would or she would target? So let's say if somebody is a hacker and he wants to target an organization, okay, to hack. So what will be his criteria? Then his criteria would be what goodies or juice he is getting after successful hacking attempt. So what he is going to get, that will be one factor to decide whom he want to target. And another factor is criminal effort to commit the cyber crime. Means what would be the amount of efforts on his part to be able to successfully hack someone. So if I plan to hack some organization, which would be that organization, whom I will target? I will first find out the organization which has lot of goodies or lot of juice to offer in terms of data breach. And I would also see that if that organization is too tough to hack, I would rather go to another organization which is relatively less tough to hack. So efforts to commit cybercrime and goodies from committing cybercrime would be the deciding factor that who will the hackers would target. So goodies versus effort. So now the same organizations, if a hacker is targeting someone, I would say the goodies would be very large, like a Facebook if it is breached, or Facebook if it is breached, then goodies would be very, very large, because it is going to be very high. Okay. At the same time, it will be very easy to hack in them because they are the consumers. Consumers make mistake, like many people keep their mobile number as their Facebook password, and in their Facebook profile, their mobile number is displayed. So hackers do not have to make a lot of efforts to hack them out. Okay. So goodies are high and efforts are low. So these are the people who can be hacked, who could be the best and most common target or soft targets for hackers. On the other side, large enterprises, goodies are high. Yes, if somebody hacks into SBI's credit card data, goodies are high. At the same time, efforts are also very high, because these are the enterprises. They are not used by the consumers. These are the enterprises whose IT is in the able hands of IT professionals. So for a hacker to get those very large amount of goodies from large or government enterprise, they will also have to invest in lot of efforts. Third is ignorant SME. The SME who has not done anything, who does not do anything. For a hacker would not get anything after hacking an SME, correct? At the same time, it will be very low effort. So it would be low and low. And proactive SME, the SME who understands cybersecurity, the SME who provides little for that particular cybersecurity. For them, the hacker will not have much of the goodies or juice to get. At the same time, because they are proactive, hacker will have to put in more efforts. So the first slide was telling us that SMEs do not have access to the IT talent, and SMEs, the impact of the cybercrime is high on SME. Okay. On the other hand, this is a positive news that if you are a little proactive SME, you are making that amount of efforts required to hack, on a higher side. And that is how hacker would, there are all the chances that hacker would skip you, and he would better concentrate on this kind of organizations. So now I want to actually convey that this is establishing that when we talk about an approach of cybersecurity for large enterprise and an approach of cybersecurity for a small organization, it has to be different. It has to be very different. So the large enterprises have to deploy a lot of talent. The large enterprises have to take a lot of, I would say, tools to protect them. At the same time, because there is no juice or goodies of successful hacking from a small enterprise, hackers are not going to put in a lot of efforts beyond a level. And if SME is a little proactive, they will be skipped by the hackers and they will be spared by the hackers. So when we talk about the defense strategy for a large enterprise, how it has to be. So it has to be like this. It has to be professionally done. It has to be professional person. It has to be with all the tools. But defense strategy for the SME is not like that. SME does not have access to such professional talent. SMEs cannot afford such tools. So for the defense strategy, I always believe that they need to be like that. They need to make sure that they are proactive, they are little proactive, and that is increasing the level of efforts to commit, for hacking them. And by all means, the hackers would spare them because they don't want to spend a lot of efforts for a proactive SME to hack in, and because they know that there are no goodies or worth that particular effort. So this is something which is very important for all of us to understand, that the defense strategy for a large enterprise will be different from defense strategy for a SME. And now we are going to focus on this type of defense strategy. Okay, so we are going to focus on this type of defense strategy. So before I go to the next part and explain the defense strategy and the examples of cyber fraud, I would request Prasanna to launch the poll, please. So here we are with the poll results. 96% of the attendees agree that cybersecurity for SME is not the same as cybersecurity for large enterprises. Correct. So we need to have different strategy, and what that different strategy could be, now we'll see in our next part of this particular webinar. So first of all, let us understand what is the IT usage in any organization. So once we understand what is the IT usage in any organization, we would know what kind of threats are there. So it is about finding out the targets, cybercrime targets in our own organization. So when we talk about digital assets, it is all about data. So all your data, your designs, drawings, everything is what we generate after using information technology, after using the software, tools, computers, internet, everything. Then another cybercrime target could be our communication system, which is email system. So that could also be a cybercrime target. So our data could be a cybercrime target. Our email system could be cybercrime target. And we also use internet as a resource. We have to use internet as a resource. We make online payment, we pay our taxes online, we research on internet, we develop business on internet. So we have to use internet, and when you use internet, we can also be targeted as a cybercrime target while using internet connectivity. We might need internet of static IP on static IP to make sure that our work from home users connect to our data. So internet connectivity can also be a cybercrime target. So our data, our email system, and our internet connectivity could be the cybercrime target. Now let us understand how it can be exploited. So how your data can be exploited. So your data means your digital assets and their ERP data, account data, design, drawing, cost sheet, contracts, customer data, HR data, and whatnot. So the data has two types of cybercrime threat. One is the external threat and the another one is internal threat. The external threat is by the means of ransomware, and internal threat is, by external threat could be ransomware or malware. So normally ransomware and malware, when they infect your systems, they will encrypt all your digital assets, all your data, they will encrypt, and then they will ask for money if you want to recover that particular data. So this is an external threat. It is mostly done by the Autobots, Autobots floated by the hackers on the internet network. Okay. So this is external threat. Now there is an internal threat of cybercrime also on data, which is manipulation. So let's say an employee is dissatisfied and he manipulates all the data. So manipulation is something which is also a cyber crime. If I'm working somewhere and I just manipulate all the data, or I just deform all the data. I might just go in the Word file and just make changes haphazardly and just save it. It is called manipulation. So that could be a form of cybercrime possibility. Another is deletion of data. Somebody deletes the data accidentally or intentionally. If it is done intentionally, then it amounts to cybercrime. So cybercrime on data can happen in the form of manipulation and deletion. And the leakage is also a third type of a cybercrime possibility on data. Like there could be for competitive purpose, a user leaks the data to competitor, or maybe user takes that data and misuses that data for committing some further cyber fraud. So the leakage, so manipulation, deletion, and leakage is also something which is a possible cybercrime on data. So when we talk about external threat, it is about ransomware, malware, virus infection, and when it is internal threat, it would be manipulation, deletion, and leakage. Here, I would like to make a statement that large enterprises have to worry about both of this. But SMEs have to worry about only this. They are okay if they are proactive. So I will explain what level of proactiveness can really do away with external threat, and what kind of internal threats one should make sure that they are very well taken care of in the organization. So for SME, the focus is on the internal threat, and for large enterprise, the focus is external as well as internal threat. Now let us understand how emails can be misused or can be used for cybercrime. So external threat is identity theft. We'll understand what this is, and ransomware backdoor. So identity theft is something where, let's say my email ID is vishal@signersoft.in, and my email account is hacked, and somebody impersonating as vishal@signersoft.in contacts my customers or employees or accounts department and get some favor or get some kind of money, because the person on the other side would think that it is Vishal whom he or she knows, and they will actually do it. So that is called identity theft. And another is ransomware backdoor. Many a times email attachments have infected ransomware backdoor entry, and that is where email system can be used for cybercrime, and it could be by identity theft or by ransomware backdoor. An internal threat, email can also be used as an internal threat, and that is leakage of the data. I can just attach some files, or I can just send some files by blind carbon copy to someone else, and nobody would know I have done this. So that is also a form of cybercrime. I have done what I am not supposed to do, and if it is that, then it is internal threat, and that is cybercrime through email system. So now we'll understand identity theft part. So many a times we get this kind of emails, basically. Like we get Netflix, and then you say restart your membership. Then you click on that, then exactly looking Netflix kind of website would be there on which you might pay from your credit card, and then you don't get anything. Similarly, sometimes you get an urgent message from, let's say, labor department or from EPF department or ESIC department, and they want to make sure that you act on it, and then you enter your username and password to log on to that is registered on hacker's website, and then they can in turn use that particular username and password, and then they can very easily take your identity. Similarly, it could be some tax return related. So these are all the examples. Your Bank of America account has been blocked. So why don't you log in? You log in, you put in your username and password, and they know it on their website, and then they just carry on with the fraud. So these are the examples of the email system. These are all actual emails. These are the examples of the email system which can be misused to commit the cyber fraud, and a level of proactiveness is required. So these are another examples where an email goes from CEO that why don't you transfer this much amount to this party? I just struck a deal and we have to buy this material, whatever. So these are the examples. Just I'm putting these slides for a few seconds so that you can just have a look at it. So these are the examples of fraud emails. Now, how internet phishing works, so now internet can also be one of the very easy and common way of committing cyber fraud. So many a times it is because of phishing. It is external threat is by phishing. Phishing means a lookalike website of your bank or of your email account would be published to you, and when you enter your credentials, those credentials are stolen, and that's it. Internet can also be used to give backdoor entry to the ransomware. Sometimes you have very lucrative file or photograph to download. You download it, then ransomware is also there. As an internal threat, our own users can leak the data on internet. So again, for email or internet, for SMEs, if they're slightly proactive, they will not be the victim of identity theft kind of email frauds. At the same time, they have to make sure that their users are not using emails or internet for leaking their data, because that is also a cyber fraud. So again, I'm coming to the same point that large enterprise has to take care of internal as well as external threat, and small enterprise has to be proactive for external threats and should be focusing on internal threat to make sure that it is not the victim of cybercrime. So now we will understand this practically, and I will give you a small tip, so that you are never a victim of a cybercrime. And this is a real-time example. I have opened this particular website, Bank of India, and if you see, it happened on 12th February 2018. If you see, it is a screenshot, and you can see here. I have taken this screenshot at 6:37 p.m. on 12th February 2018. On that particular day, when we most of us actually Google for going to any website. Like if I want to go to Bank of India website, we Google it. So when we Google it, at that time some hackers had placed this kind of fraudulent website which exactly looked like Bank of India original website. And once we open that particular website, it would lead us to username and password. Okay, username and password page where we used to enter our username and passwords. Now this is the page which I have again screenshot. Okay, now if you see, I will magnify this particular part, URL part, and then I'll tell you what is the formula. So if I magnify, you see here it is bankofindia.starconnectcbsi.com dash whatever. So this is actually not a right URL. Absolutely no. And this is a phishing URL. Now, how you or your users in the company would know about it? So I have developed a simple tip for that. You can apply that and you can find out whether it is a phishing thing or not. So we'll see that. So now first of all, let us understand which would be the right URL. So this is the right URL, starconnect cbs.bankofindia.com. Here you see bankofindia.starconnectcbs.com. So here this is a right URL. And how we find out whether this is a right URL and whether we should have used that URL to enter our credentials. So let us see that. So whenever you are opening any website, from the left side to right, means from left to right this way, find the third slash. Okay, so this is 1, this is 2, and this is third slash. So from left to right, find the third slash. So from this to this to this, first, second, and third slash. Okay, find out the third slash. Once you find out the third slash, from right to left, means from this part to this part, find the first dot. So here, this is the first point. This is the first dot. Okay, first dot. If your website is .co or .gov or .in, you can move to next dot also. Okay, so just before this particular first dot, if it is your bank's name, then it is an authenticated URL. If it is not, it would not be. Now we'll check that again. This was a wrong one. So which is the third slash? This is first, this is second, and this is third slash. Which is the first dot? This is the first dot. And what is exactly before that first dot? It is starconnectcbsi.com, which is not my bank's website. So it is a wrong. Now we will go here. First, second, third. What is the first dot? It is here. And my Bank of India name is there. So Bank of India is my right side. So it is. So if we train our users to do this way, how to find out the website which is genuine and which is not a phished website. In that case, we can be very proactive and we can make sure that we are not the victim of this kind of fraud. So here, this is something which I have explained that, we by becoming slightly proactive on email front, on website front, our users can be very well aware about, the right and wrong, and then they will not do wrong things. Okay. On the other hand, we have to make sure that our users are not internal threat to us in terms of data leakage or accidental or intentional deletion. Now, so this is about my explanation, about what we want to find out when we want to know what kind of, whether it is a cyber fraud or not. So that is where I have told that element of proactiveness will make the hackers keep or spare you, and he will find that this is more difficult to crack, so let me move to somebody else who is softer. So now this is about understanding of what is wrong, what is right, how to find out what is wrong and what is right, and this is how we can be more proactive. Now we are moving to the last part of this particular webinar, which is the we are safe 6 different strategies to make sure that we are able to manage our internal threat mitigation program. Internal threat mitigation program means how we can make sure that users cannot really misuse our infrastructure to leak the data or to accidentally or intentionally delete the data. So we will see that we are safe strategy, and then we will see something else, which is, we call it rule 23, to validate whether you have over invested or under invested in your IT infrastructure, whether you are overspending or underspending on your IT expenses. So before I start that part, I request Prasanna to launch the poll, please. Yeah, so 94% of the attendees agree that SMEs are more vulnerable to internal threats like data leakage or data theft by the users. 6% do not agree. I believe that yes, there is nothing like more or less, but if it is a proactive SME, if it is a proactive SME who has provided certain things which we are going to see in our VR safe strategy, if they have done VR safe, I think for them, they are more vulnerable to internal threats than external threats, because if they follow that VR safe strategy, mostly they are very well protected from external threat, and we will see how. So these were the poll results. Yeah, now we'll move to the next part of it. So now we will see this we are safe strategy. So see, most of the SMEs require to access their network from outside or static IP only for its own users. It is not like bank where they need to give access to their network to their customers, or it is not like a stockbroker who has to give access to his customers, access of his network and applications to a customer. It is not like a portal where IndiaMart, where it has to give its data access to its customers. SMEs access the data, especially in work from home situation, only by the known users. If, let's say, if an SME has 50 users or 25 users, we know that only those 25 people would be accessing the data from outside. So the first point of this first strategy of this VR safe model is VPN. If you are using, if you are using any use case, you have any use case to access your data from outside over static IP, always use VPN. Never use free remote access software like ME, TeamViewer, like that. Never use that. And use VPN over static IP. And for using the VPN over static IP, you do not need to buy very expensive firewalls. You can get a good 6,000 to 10,000 rupees router, which is a good VPN router, and you can configure your static IP on that particular router. You can make it a VPN server. That router, you can make it VPN server, and you can install the VPN client in your user system who are going to access your data from outside, and you can very well allow them to work from home or work from outside or remotely. So this is the first strategy. If you are extending your, I'm talking about how you overcome and become proactive against the external threats. So as a SME, it is not your requirement to allow unknown people to get into your network, just like a bank or just like a portal. You know that who is supposed to enter your network, and just to eliminate that factor of unknown, you just install VPN router and install VPN client to your user system. So that is the first thing which I highly recommend, and that will make sure that hackers will find it difficult to hack in your network. Another is router and rule table. Once you have that router or a firewall, invest in a low cost configurable router and block all ports except SSL VPN port. Nothing else is open on your router. So any connection which is happening to your router will be through SSL VPN port only, and all other ports are blocked. Most of the times when hackers start hacking any network, they run a port scan and they try to find out that in your network, what are the ports open from outside to inside network. And when you have blocked all those ports on your router and put your bandwidth on that particular router with static IP, they will find that most of your ports are closed, and whichever port is open, which is VPN port, it accepts connection only on SSL, secured socket layer. They will spare you, they will skip you, and they will move to somebody else whose ports are open and whose network is open. The third element of this VR safe strategy is S, which is standard email system. Do not use any non-standard email system. Use standard email systems like G Suite or Office 365 kind of email system. Do not rely on small time email hosting provider to save few thousand rupees. Always go for a standard email system. Why? Because these are the people who provide email services to millions and billions of the users. Okay, and when they are doing it, when there is any threat related to backdoor ransomware attachment or any phishing attack or any identity theft attack, they are the first people, these service providers are the first to know about it, and then they train their system such that their customers are not affected. And if you are their customers, you are their customer, you will also not be affected. So you have to have a very standard email system. Don't go for non-standard email systems, unsecured email systems. So it is VR safe, VRS, V for VPN, R for router and rule table, and S for standard email system. A for antivirus. I have still seen many people, who use their computer systems without antivirus. Don't do that at all. No way. You should have antivirus on all your computers. If you have it, you are very well protected from known ransomware, and that is how known backdoor will also be very well resisted by your antivirus, and you'll be protected. F for forgo piracy, forgo XP and 7. I see so many SMEs who are in love with Windows 7, who are in love with XP. Don't do that. Now Windows 11 is there, Windows 10 is already supported by Microsoft. So go for Windows 10 or Windows 11. Don't use cracks, trials kind of software. Only use genuine software. If you have to spend money on that, spend money on that. Otherwise, what you spend on your data recovery would be far higher than what you would have spent on the good, genuine software. And E for employee policy. Have a very strong employment agreement against the data leakage. This is about handling the internal threat. So if you have made the employee agree on paper that he cannot leak your data, he has to keep your things, confidential, he will not really dare. Most of them would not. And train your employees against phishing and identity theft. Just like I had shown you a small hack, how you can determine whether it is a phishing website or not. So train your people so that they are proactive. And when they are proactive, you will be less vulnerable. And never use administrator passwords to do everything and anything. I have seen many people, they just use administrator password for doing anything on their IT systems. Don't do that. You have usernames, you have user level privileges, and keep your passwords safe. Keep your passwords complex. Many a times I see admin123 is a very common password. My name @ something is a very common password. Don't do that. If you are proactive enough with VPN, with router and routing table, with standard email system, with antivirus, with genuine software, with strong employee policy, with aware and knowledgeable employees, and with this kind of practices like complex passwords for the administrators and users, you will be that tough nut for an hacker to crack. And if you are tough nut, he will just keep you or spare you. And that is how your cybersecurity provisions will not really make a hole in your pocket. At the same time, you will be very well protected. So this is about the 6 strategies for SMEs to mitigate cybersecurity risk. Now we are moving to the last agenda of this particular webinar, which is about rule of 23. How do you validate whether you have overinvested or underinvested? How you validate whether you are overspending or underspending on your IT expenses? So this is called rule 23. If we want to evaluate your one-time investment, what should be your one-time investment? So it is very, very simple, and believe me, it works really well. So let's say you are an SME and your payroll is for 25 users. And let's say your average salary is 30,000 rupees. In that case, your 7,50,000 rupees, 7,50,000 rupees is your payroll per month. The rule of 23 is over a 5 years horizon, you should not be spending more than 2 times and less than 3 times. Sorry, you should not be spending less than 2 times and more than 3 times of your monthly payroll. So if your monthly payroll is 7.5 lakhs of rupees, you should not have spent less than 15 lakhs and more than 21 lakhs or 22 lakhs 550,000 rupees on anything and everything of your IT. It could be your ERP, it could be your licensed software, it could be your hardware, computers, monitor, printer, network, anything, the capex you have done. So if it is a 25 user, your spend should be anywhere between 15 lakhs of rupees to 21 lakhs of rupees over a 5 years horizon. So just check your tally or your account system in last 5 years. How much is in your fixed assets in terms of your computers, in terms of your software licenses, in terms of your network wires and whatnot, hardware, switches, whatnot. If it is between 2 to 3 times of your monthly payroll, you have not overspent, you have not underspent. If it is not, then you need to look at it. Now let us see what is your recurring expense. What should be your recurring expense? So your recurring expense is what you pay for your antivirus, what you pay for your internet bandwidth, what you pay for your AMC of your computers, your subscriptions, your IT resource salary, the salary you pay to your IT resource. that should not be more than 2% to 3% of your monthly payroll. So again, if your monthly payroll is 7,50,000 rupees, 7,50,000 rupees, whatever is its 2%, it is 15,000 rupees per month, and whatever is its 3% is 22,500 rupees per person, not per person, per month. So 15,000 per month or 22,500 rupees per month should be your monthly expense on everything, your internet, antivirus, AMC, subscription. Maybe for 25 users, you do not need a dedicated IT resource, So here you would determine and find out when you will really require a dedicated IT resource also by this particular rule. And what is your return on investment? So once you are optimizing your investment by this rule 23, once you are optimizing your IT expenses by this rule 23, you will have the best return on investment for the 5 years. Normally IT assets are invested for 5 years. So this is the rule of 23 which I wanted to explain to all of you. I request Prasanna to launch the poll, and then we'll open the session for the question answers. So here we see that 100% of the attendees agree that VR safe strategies and rule 23 is useful and doable. I'm so glad to know about it. It is real happiness I am experiencing that whatever I have suggested, you have found it useful. And that is making my time spent on this worthwhile and your time spent on this worthwhile. So now it's question answer time. I will be taking the questions. So the first question is from Mr. Mayur. What about MS Defender as antivirus other than service providers like McAfee, Symantec? Yes, Mr. Mayur, MS Defender is a very good antivirus, and if you are using it and you are updating it regularly, you really do not need other antiviruses. Yes, you need other antiviruses in case you want to control your endpoints for USB port, and or you want to encrypt your data, or there are other facilities in other antiviruses, but MS Defender is absolutely fine. Mr. Rohit, yeah, very good session. Thank you, Mr. Rohit. Will you share this deck to us? Yes, we are going to circulate the recording of this entire webinar, and you will get the link soon. Prasanna will send it across. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Mayur. Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Mayur. Yeah, I think somebody has typed the question in chat. It is about some business inquiry. So Prasanna, can you please help Mr. Jafar to, for his question, offline, in offline way, please.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
Yeah, any other questions? We have slightly overshot this session, but no problem. We can have it more 3-4 minutes and take 2-3 questions, no problem. Yeah, so by the time you are deliberating your questions, as Prasanna had introduced all of you to United SMEs, I request all of you to take benefit of United SMEs. It is complimentary. It is a training on a lot of important topics for your team members. You can circulate it with your professional circle also. We are sponsoring these. Trainings for our SME fraternity as a sense of reciprocation. Yeah, Mr. Mayur, how to make VR safe for the organization, any product? See, there are, when you have VR safe, so for VPN, you can go for a good Cisco RV42 router, which costs 10,000 rupees. And in that you can have routing tables also. Standard email system, we recommend G Suite or O365, whichever fits your budget. Antivirus, you can go for Defender. In case you need more functionalities, you can go for McAfee or Symantec. And yes, this is all about VR safe. F is for I think there is no product for that. It is all about the practice. You can also evaluate various advanced level applications and products which can actually do this VR safe automatically or in a more comprehensive and integrated way. Yeah, so Prasanna, I think we conclude today's session. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful and knowledgeable session. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session. We appreciate you being here. Hope you have learned and enjoyed the presentation. Kindly fill the survey form, which you will get at the end of the session to give us your valuable feedback. On behalf of Cinesoft, I thank you again for joining.
Yeah, by the time we just conclude, there is one thing called what courses or study you suggest. Yeah, you can if it is an IT professional, you have a lot of certifications you can go for. Mr. Chakravarti, yeah, you are welcome, sir. Yeah, Mr. Chandra Prakash, thanks for the session. Will Securite endpoint security is the right product for over 200 user complex area? Yes, I think Securite is a good product, and you can very well look into it, in comparison with McAfee also. Nowadays, McAfee has also offered a lot of features, but it depends on your requirements and what specific area you are targeting and what objectives you want to achieve. So what you can do is you can send an email to Prasanna with all your requirements. They will give you some consultative advice also. Cinesoft does not deal in Securite or any other antivirus product. It has its own product called Blackbox, which is my background. But that is not an antivirus. Blackbox is a complement product to antivirus. So antivirus is required wherever Blackbox is implemented. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you.